Hi everyone, my name is Gina, and in this video I'm going to show you step by step how you can submit your assignment to GitHub Classroom. Now I've already made a video that covered something extremely similar to this. Here's the key difference. In this video I'm going to go over how you can submit an assignment to GitHub Classroom that has starter code. Okay, so this depends on how your instructor set up the GitHub assignment. If it doesn't have any starter code, the steps are slightly different and you should check out my other video. If it does have starter code, then this is the video to watch. If you don't know if it has starter code, then follow along in this video, and quickly here I'll show you how you can figure out if your code for your repository comes from starter code or not. So first things first, you're going to need two things. One, you're going to need a GitHub account. Secondly, you're going to need a URL, a link that your instructor provides you with for your assignment on GitHub Classroom. For example, in my classes, I just put that link right in the programming assignment documentation under a section called something like GitHub Classroom Setup, as you can see here. So the link is going to look something like this. The very end of it will be slightly different for you because it's going to be a different link that your instructor will distribute to you. So you will need to find that link in some shape or form, depending on how your instructor distributed it to you. Once you have that link, open it in a browser. If you're not signed in to GitHub, it will prompt you to sign in. It may prompt you to choose your name from a list of names in the classroom. Click your name. Click accept, and you'll see a page that looks like this. This page has two progress bars, one for creating the repository, and if there is starter code, a second one for the progress on GitHub importing the starter code. So if you don't have any starter code for your assignment because your instructor didn't set any up, then you won't see that progress bar there taking any time at all in order to import starter code because there isn't any starter code. I'll show you one more way to find out if you have starter code or not for your assignment. Once that all passes and goes through, you should see a page that looks something like this and a link to your repository that lives in the organization your instructor has set up. So my organization is called Gonzaga CPSC 122. So this isn't my personal account. This is the organization account that owns this repository that was just made. The name of the repository is PA1-GSprint23. The first part is the name of the assignment, PA1, and the second part is my username. So yours will look slightly different depending on how your instructor named your assignment, and of course it'll be different because you have a different GitHub username than me. So go ahead and click on this link, and it will bring you to your repository. Note once again that this repository is owned by an organization. It's not owned by you in your personal account. Now, if you have starter code, then you're going to see that starter code here. You'll see some files. If you don't have any starter code, then you won't see any files, and you'll instead see kind of a help page from GitHub that shows you how you can set up a repository. So if you see something that looks like this with some files, you've got starter code. If you don't, then you should check out my other video, which goes through the remaining steps from here on how to submit a GitHub Classroom assignment when there isn't any starter code, meaning you're starting from a blank repository. All right, so I just made it so that when I accepted this assignment, I would just get two files here, a main.cpp, which is a simple hello world C++ file, and then a compiled executable version of that file, a.out. Okay, just so something would show up here with my starter code. So your code is going to look a little different, what your instructors provided you with. Definitely will be more functional than a simple hello world. But the steps are going to be the same. So once we get to this page, here are the steps that you need to take to start working on these files, add your functionality to complete your assignment, and submit it via GitHub Classroom. Over on the right side of the page is a big green button that says clone or download. Go ahead and click that button, and you're going to see a URL go ahead and copy that URL. You can just press this copy button right to the side of it. This URL uniquely identifies your repository. So go ahead and copy that. Now we're going to have to go to our local machine in our development environment and get this cloud repo's contents down locally on our machine. We'll use the git clone command to do that, as well as this link that uniquely identifies this repository. All right, so whatever your development environment is, go ahead and head over to it. So here I'm just using Ubuntu Linux virtual machine, and this is where I'm going to do my development. Your development environment might be different. Wherever it is, head over there and go ahead and open up a command prompt or a terminal of some sort. Navigate to a directory where you want to work, meaning when we copy down these files, you're happy to have them in that location. So I'm on my desktop, and this is a fine spot for me to work. So this is where I'm going to execute our first command, and that is the git clone command. So we type git space clone space, and then we're going to paste that URL that we copied from GitHub that uniquely identifies our repo. So git clone and then the URL that you copied from here, from your repo on GitHub. Press enter. Depending on how you have credentials saved on your machine, you may or may not be prompted for a password because this is a private repository. So I'm going to enter my GitHub username. You should enter yours in if you're prompted, and then enter in your GitHub password. All right, so now I'm going to do an ls, or a dir on Windows, to see the contents of the current working directory. Here I see pa1-gsprint23. This is, in fact, the name of my repository. So I now have a local copy of this GitHub repo on my local machine in my development environment. I'm going to cd into that directory and make it my current working directory. I'm going to do an ls, or if you're on Windows, a dir, and there's my two local copies of, or my two files that are local copies from my starter code that was imported when I accepted the assignment. So now I'm going to show you two things. First, I'm going to modify one of these existing files, main.cpp, and I'm going to push these changes I make to main.cpp up into the cloud repository so I can see them here. That's how I would submit changes for grading. Next, I'm going to show you how you can make a new file and then submit that in addition to your existing files up to your GitHub Cloud repo for grading. All right, so let's open main.cpp, or in your case, just open one of your files from your starter code. Okay, use whatever text editor you want. I'll use gedit. So here's that simple hello world starter code I was showing or telling you about earlier. So I'm just going to make some change. I'll add another cout statement. Ignore these warnings over here. All right, make a change, make sure you save that file. And now let me show you a command that isn't necessary for submitting your code, but it is really nice for checking in on the state of your code under version control. So git status, git space status. This command will tell you the state of your Git repo, right? So here it's saying, okay, I have some changes that aren't staged for commit. Main.cpp is modified. And it's giving me a suggestion saying, hey, you should add this file to update what will be committed. And a commit is really just a snapshot of the current state of your repository. And you have to commit, make a snapshot, before you can push all of those changes in that snapshot up to your GitHub repo. So I do want to do this. I'm going to run git add And I can just add main.cpp, just add the single file. I can list out other files here if I want. That works. Or you can do git add dot or git add -a. Either one of these two, dot or -a, will just add all the files that have changes in your current working directory, your Git repo, to the staging area. And the staging area essentially represents all of the changes that you want to collectively commit, meaning take a snapshot of. So I like to do just git add -a. It's pretty lazy, it just adds everything. Sometimes that's not what you want. Sometimes it is what you want. Here it's fine. Now I'm going to run git status again. And I can see now main.cpp is modified as well, but it's green, not red, because the changes in this file are being tracked for a commit, and they're ready to be committed if I'm done making changes and ready to save this snapshot of my Git repo. I am done. So now I'm going to do git commit, which essentially saves the snapshot of all of the changes in the files that have been staged with git add. I'm going to do git commit -m, and the -m is a nice little option or switch that allows me to provide a string that is a label that describes this snapshot. So I might describe this as add another cout statement, right? But as you're working on your assignment, you'll probably describe what feature you just implemented or what bug you just fixed. This is just kind of for demonstration purposes only, saying I added another cout statement, which just for demonstration purposes. All right, press enter. Okay, it says one file changed, one line insertion. Looks good. Now this commit is still local. If I want to get this commit up into my cloud repository here, I have one more command, one more step that I need to take, and that is to push. So push is the command that takes your local commits and moves them, makes copies of them up into the cloud. So I'm going to type git push. I'm going to be prompted for my username. Some of you may not be prompted for your username and password. If you have a credential manager set up, that's caching or saving your username and password. So if you're not prompted for your username and password, it doesn't mean there's anything wrong. If you are prompted, go ahead and enter your GitHub username and your GitHub password. Once this is done and you don't see any errors, you see something that looks like this, writing objects 100%, we can head over to that URL, the same one we had open earlier, refresh the browser, and we can see now that the commit on main.cpp says added another cout statement 2 minutes ago. That was when I made the commit with this label, added another cout statement. I can even go to main.cpp and take a look, and there, sure enough, is a copy of my local file, this one right here, up in the cloud with my most recent changes that I committed. All right, so that's the first half of the demo. The first half of the demo shows you how can you modify an existing file that was imported into your repository from starter code that your instructor provided. Now, let's say as part of your solution, you need or want to add another file to the files that were provided to you. Let me show you how you can create the file, add that file for tracking in Git, commit changes in that file, and then push that file and its changes up to GitHub. Okay, it's not going to be much different, but I want to show you just so you can see that it can be done, and here's how it's done. You'll need to first make that file. Okay, so you can do this in any way you want. This is not dependent on Git. Just make sure you put it somewhere in your local Git repository folder. Okay, so I need to make it somewhere in PA1-gsprint23. So I could do this using the File Explorer. I could do this using gedit. I could also use it or do this from command line. So I'll just do it from command line. I'll do gedit, and let's say this program main.cpp is actually going to read in some values from a text file called input.txt. So I'm going to open input.txt, which doesn't exist, but will be created by gedit for editing in gedit. All right, so here I've made input.txt. It's empty. Let's just say it has candy, one on each line. I don't know, something fun. All right, so here's 3 different types of candies. Just putting some text in here. Doesn't matter what I put in here. I'm just showing you that I can make a new file in my Git repository. Okay, just like I would if I was making it in a non-Git repository. Save your changes. And now I run git status, and Git's telling me, hey, I detected a new file, input.txt, that is not being tracked. If we want to track this file, then we're going to do what Git suggests, which is git add file to include what will be committed. So I'm going to do that, just like we did before. I could do git add input.txt to add this file to the staging area so that I can commit it as part of my snapshot. I can do git add input.txt. I could also do git add -a or git add dot. Remember, the dot or the -a will just add all the files in the directory that have changes. All right, so I'm going to do git status. It says there's a new file, input.txt. Perfect. I'm going to do git commit. I'll say add input file. Git push. And now, just like that, my new file is up in my GitHub repo. So if I head back over to the browser, I refresh, and there it is, input.txt. I can open it in the browser. Here are my 3 lines with candy on each line. Just something kind of fun. Maybe I'm hungry. I don't know. But here's my input.txt, just a dummy file with some lines of strings in them. All right, the last thing that I'd like to show you is what I encourage you to do to make sure that you've successfully submitted what you want for grading. I call it pretending to be the grader. And as part of pretending to be the grader, you're going to execute a sequence of steps just like the grader would do in order to grade your assignment. When you do that and everything looks good and runs as you want it to be graded, then you should say, okay, I'm done. I've submitted my assignment to GitHub Classroom. So here's what you do in order to pretend to be the grader. Head over to clone or download. Copy that link again. CD into a different directory, okay? Not the one that you've been working in. So I'm gonna CD out of PA1-usprint23. I'm on the desktop. I'll make another directory called something like, test PA1 for grading. Something like this. I'll CD into that directory, and I'm gonna clone my assignment. I'm going to CD into that copy, just like the grader's going to do, right? The grader's going to go clone your assignment, whatever's been pushed up to your repo. They're going to clone it. They're going to CD into that directory they just cloned. They're going to say, okay, what do I need to do to compile and run this program? Looks like I need to compile main.cpp. They compile it. They run it. And by you going through these statements, going through these sequence of instructions, and compiling and running your code from a fresh clone of your repo, you're going to see the exact behavior that the grader is going to see when they compile and run your program. If this looks like the exact version that you want to submit for grading, then at this point, I think it's safe to say that you have submitted your assignment for grading to GitHub Classroom. When you're done testing, make sure that you remove that folder so that you don't get confused because you have 2 copies of your GitHub repo now. I would just go ahead and do an rm-rf and get rid of that test folder. That way you only have your PA1 folder that you were working in originally. All right, thanks for watching, and hopefully now you're able to submit your assignment to GitHub Classroom, even if it has starter code.